All right, Sam. Just finished up T100 Lake Las Vegas.
Almost. I think we've got a few people.
Few people are still running by. So.
We're right by the run course here. We're just across from where T2 is. The sun is still shining. It's been a great weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I got in on Saturday, like during the
and we should say cheers.
The bike a little
cheers
bit. Yeah, cheers.
Good to have you here.
Successful one.
Yeah, it's been a great one. I think this is maybe not our best yet. I don't know. What's your opinion? You've watched these.
The resort is amazing, and it's nice to kind of be secluded a little bit away from Vegas.
Yeah.
Because you don't get like the craziness that is that.
Yes.
And it's kind of like its own little triathlon community out here. Yeah. Like I didn't go to Ibiza, but I assume that may be like somewhat similar.
Well, no, the difference with Ibiza is we do, at least at the moment, we do the race in the middle of Ibiza town.
Yeah.
And so it is busy.
Yeah.
Ibiza town, right. There's so much going on. You're right in the middle of a major port where everyone gets to go to Formentera. And so, in contrast, like you said, this could be this own little triathlon mecca.
Yeah, it's like a bubble. Like you're kind of out away from yourself, and there was probably 5,000-10,000 people here yesterday.
Maybe slightly less than that, but no, not far. Actually, no, I can probably do the numbers for you. It was probably about 6,000.
Yeah.
Look, this is our smallest race,
right?
By design, actually. And we said this to the resort manager here and to the property owners is that it's been, I think 11 years, no more, 12 years since a major triathlon took place here, right? When the Worlds. And without me being unfair to the local community, frankly, triathlon wasn't welcome to come back. It was like, look, we don't really want the disruption and the rest. And we were really keen to do this. We had the support of the mayor. We met with her earlier in the year or late last year when we were planning this. And our commitment was, look, we're going to make something special. We're going to really elevate the region. We're going to promote it globally. But let's do it in a way that's sensitive to the local community and grow over time. So look, I have big ambitions that this event could be a lot larger and do a lot more, but you need to go softly and not be told after year one, we don't want to welcome you back.
Right. I think that, watching the race yesterday and then seeing the age groupers today, this one's definitely circled on my calendar as far as doing a race. And I think it's perfectly situated in the calendar that it's not going to be miserable hot out here in Vegas, right? Yeah. Like it was perfect temperature for the most part for the women's race. For the men's race, it kind of heated up a little bit, but today it was beautiful during the age group race. So.
And the bike course, and we want some variety, right? We've said this all along. We're getting to that. There are some things that we didn't get to do this year, which we wanted to if we had permission, which I'm hoping that we'll be able to do next year, which would be great. That will be particularly around the age group side, actually, around the bike course. And like, there's such beautiful riding in the national park that's just behind us here, literally. Really excited. It's been a great weekend.
Well, we got one race left on the calendar.
We do.
Coming up in Dubai. Not to look too far ahead and finish the 2024 season, but as far as where you've been and then where you've come this year, what would you highlight as kind of key successes and kind of things that you guys want to improve on?
Look, hopefully everyone gets that, like, as an organization, we're here to learn and we're sponges for feedback. And I think everyone would be surprised on this podcast, like how many of the posts we read, like how much we listen and the rest. Like, but that's a cultural thing that we think it's really important to learn from other people and get feedback and continue to grow. It's not been perfect, but overall, I would say as an organization, we're really happy. We're all really tired. As this may be obvious in my voice, and the team across the board are all frankly exhausted because we've been running so fast, mainly because to stand up so many events of the scale that we've done in such a short time period, it's just taken a lot. And I felt like, if anything, from a negative perspective, almost from the day we launched this, we were behind the curveball because there's just not enough time, right? A normal period, if you were to ask a professional event organizer, they would say for a major international event, you need 18 months to 24 months. Yeah. And we did most of these in 10 months.
You went on a short runway with a big jumbo jet.
Yeah, exactly. And that normally doesn't work out.
No.
Right? But longer answer to your question, probably what proudest of or happiest about is just the fact that we did 7 events in these iconic locations. And iconic is what we said. We thought it was really important. It was a bit of a change for the PTO from our previous strategy of the PTO tour was to go to iconic locations. And that's not to criticize the places where we went beforehand, because we were really welcomed by those hosts. But we thought to really elevate the sport and, very publicly stated goal that we want to take triathlon mainstream. And we believe it has all the raw ingredients. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen. We need to go to iconic places. Yeah. And so if you'd asked me 18 months ago, would we be in Vegas, in downtown London, in Singapore, in Dubai, I would have been like, wow, that's a dream. And that's what we've been able to do. So we're very happy about that.
Yeah. And then anything that you've written down in your notepad as far as like, hey, 2025, we need to be better at this?
So I have, well, in here, I have my notepad, which I carry around with me, and I go through one of these every like 4 or 5 months. I'm constantly making notes. It was disappointing not to get the 8th event across the board, right? It's fairly obvious, like that we don't shy away from our failures. You got to own your successes and your failures. Especially that we did it so late. Like we got really close, and that's what made it frustrating, right? We got really close with a venue that I think everyone knows where it was, but I won't be unfair to say it out loud. I hope we will be there soon, maybe next year, maybe the year after, maybe in the future. But I want to go there mainly because the
venue
is spectacular, both from promoting the region that it's in, but also the course, which would be really epic. So we'll get there. We were disappointed not to get it across the line, but look, these things are really complicated to put on. They're very impactful to the community, and in a market where, as will become a bit obvious when we eventually announce where it was, this is not a place that hosts lots of big international sports events, right? So you can't just rock up and there isn't the local infrastructure. But that's probably the biggest one. And then secondly, what else have we learned? Just needing more time. So actually, we should, in theory, and this should really work out, I think, we'll get stronger with each year, just because you're getting more like muscle memory of momentum. Exactly, right? If we, a lot of people do like to compare us to Ironman, which is very natural to do, or challenge. Like, I mean, we're talking 40 years of putting on an event in Kona, right? They've learned all of the mistakes. The mistakes happened ages ago. They are a machine. And in the case of Ironman, they're a wonderful event organizer, probably, arguably from a pure event operations perspective, probably the best in the world, if not like maybe number 2 to the New York Road Runners, like right up there. And the London Marathon Group, I should add in that sentence. But one of the reasons why they're so good is they've done it for so long, right? So they've learned the mistakes.
Experience.
We're catching up fast.
I do want to give you guys a little bit of praise.
Thank you.
As far as I think that this could be a global catalyst for inducing some change into the drafting penalties. You guys very obviously made a change mid-season as far as dropping the drafting penalties, the amount of time. And then that's obviously, I think, empowered the officials a little bit more to say, hey, this isn't going to inhibit XYZ athlete as much as a 5-minute penalty. And so we've gone down to a 1 minute and sometimes a 30-second penalty. And so I do want to praise you guys for that.
Thank you. And
That's big change.
Us and World Triathlon, right? So we didn't make the decision unilaterally. We spent time with them working through that, and part of it was exactly as you said, like a 4-minute or a 5-minute penalty. I mean, you're effectively killing a race for somebody. And that's not to say like they should still get it. They're cheating. It's just like if you're getting a penalty, clearly you're cheating, right? There's a reason why you get the penalty, but not having essentially a knockout move, like you still 1 minute still impacts the race. And to us, we thought that's important. And so it may not stay that way forever. Like we're working through it with World Triathlon, and I really appreciate their approach that they were willing to test this with us. One of the challenges, I mean, speaking candidly about it, is that we obviously get, I don't want to say the blame. We get both the praise and the blame for officiating. But it's important to us that we're actually independent from that. And we think from a sporting perspective, you need to have governance in a separate place. We very much recognize World Triathlon's role in the sport for that. And that's why we've just done our very long-term partnership with them.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about that. So what does that mean as far as the 12-year global partnership?
So it was really aligning, and it's probably not too hard to guess between like the time cycles, like 12 years, Olympic cycles. That's how things kind of work in the international federation world. We've had a year of working together already on sort of standing this up, and we wanted to show our commitment mutually to the progress that we're making, and ultimately, like, aligning the organizations. We don't think, look, we're the newest kid on the block. We've got quite a lot of money. We're using it to grow the sport. We want to do that in a way that aligns people rather than breaks it up, right? So the last thing I ever want to get compared to, frankly, is like Live Golf, where even though Live Golf has got its problems, Live has come in and it's made massive progress now, but they've done it in a way that's really like doing this, right? Whereas we were like, why don't you partner and grow? And that's where we saw this great opportunity. And then I think I can't remember who wrote about this. One of the journalists wrote that maybe this is a signal of World Triathlon leaning into long distance more. Like previously, they kind of left Ironman to do it, and this sort of brings it back in and recognizes the value in that side of the sport. And I thought that was a good observation, because it's exactly the point, is that because World Triathlon's funding is primarily comes from the Olympic Games, that means they've been, by design, focused financially at least on the short distance stuff. Because we have our own sources of capital, we're able to sort of bring them into the long distance sport too.
And it being a 12-year partnership, you're talking 3 Olympic cycles. I mean, you could potentially look at maybe inducing a 100K distance into the Olympics at some point.
You said that, not me, but yeah, the timing is interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting. So let's look ahead a little bit to 2025. It's no secret that you guys have a little bit of a calendar ready to go for 2025. Do you have a key date on when you want that finalized?
So we've released, I think, 7 dates, if I remember rightly. Yeah, like it's been a long weekend, so excuse me if I get my numbers slightly off. So we've announced we're going to France. I can't remember if we've said the date or not when we're going to France.
Not date or location. So all we have is Riviera.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So that's coming soon. It's coming really soon.
Yeah.
And we're pretty excited. We're not pretty excited. I'm really excited about the location. Obviously, France is a powerhouse within triathlon.
Yeah.
It's a great market. Like most of the French Grand Prix events are really well attended. And so we're excited about being in France. So we'll have all of the details live on that in a couple of weeks. In the rest of the calendar, post Dubai.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got to get through Dubai. I'm very happy to say we have more hosts than we have space on the calendar.
That's good.
So it's a really nice reflection of the strength of the sport right now. So that's really good. And we're having to pick and choose where we go. Right. Yeah. Now, that said, we will only go to the locations that we think are the right ones. We won't be bounced into it. Right. We're going to pick it. Or put it another way, I won't go to it if I don't feel that we can get 10 great locations. We won't do 10.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do 9. Right. We want to go to the right places where we can grow the sport. So a little bit of, maybe that was a waffling answer for you, but a little bit longer before we announce it. But
December 1?
I don't think it'll be quite as quick as that, just because a couple of the locations have got a little bit of work to do. But certainly the differences we would have seen is we're announcing as we go, right? So like the minute we get a confirmation, we'll go and put it out there. So maybe 1 or 2 locations maybe stray into the new year, but we're sort of giving roughly that time frame.
That's fair. So we had a podcast last week, obviously, about T100 and what we think structurally it could look like for next year. As far as the contracts itself, will those all be announced, obviously, before the calendar, and who you're going to have?
So that's I really enjoyed listening to your ideas, and it was kind of interesting to see how I would say maybe 70 or 80% of the concepts you talked about, we've already talked about. And so that's good to see alignment, right? Because, it's not rocket science, right? It just takes time to think it through.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And then a couple of the ideas you guys threw out were different to what we were thinking. And so it's good to take those away. I can't for the life of me remember which one. There was one in particular I was like, oh, I like that.
The top 50.
Heard of that before. Top 50. Yeah. So look, the number of people in the race fields, I thought, if I remember rightly, I only listened to it about a week ago. I think it was Pat who said how there is an inconsistency perhaps in the strength of fields between the male races and the female races. And this is a sport that needs to be equal, right? It's part of the narrative of triathlon that it's equal and it should always stay that way. And so we ideally don't want a structure where we have more men or more or less women. That said, you have to recognize at times the strength of the racing with the men versus the women. That is what it is. So I think what the important thing we learned is to maybe not be too restricted by we're making these rules is not the right word. We're setting this up as criteria. We're setting this criteria up as we go, and we shouldn't make that into like a rod to beat our backs over, right? Like let's not be too restricted by it. That's, I think, certainly sort of the approach we've taken with this is to evolve and see what works and see what doesn't and change. But we're excited about getting the contracts done. So sorry, your original part of the question was when are we going to announce them? So we'll get through Dubai. I think if I remember rightly, Taupo is the final event where world rankings will be impacted by the nature of the score. Like obviously there are other races, but I think the level of that high to have got a score from it. So we need to get through that, and we will see who's automatically qualified and who's going to make it in. It's pretty exciting.
To be like a Christmas present for people.
It will be a big Christmas present, or a big Christmas present for some, and indeed for the sport, right? It's an exciting time. There are a bunch of athletes from short distance we anticipate stepping up, right? Olympic cycles, that's less, partly the T100, partly just because the Olympic cycle is over. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see, right? Look what Martin Van Riel's done, right? Will we have the same with others, or is Martin a one-off?
And Neil Gaines today or yesterday.
Exactly. So, yesterday.
Obviously, him winning the race was huge in his debut at the 100K distance. As far as the athletes itself are concerned, you guys basically were 20 athletes racing, men, 20 women. Will it be more next year?
So I don't think so at this point, right? And I say that not because I'm saying like, I'm not saying absolutely no. I think 20 is probably the right kind of number. I think the difference is, though, is about not being too stuck on 20 being the definitive. So, for example, on Saturday, unfortunately, we had 19 in the women because India pulled out very late when she got sick. But it's not like the world ended because we had 19 versus 20, right? And so I think that probably recognizing some flexibility about it. I'm almost definite that, I don't think this is public, but it doesn't matter. And we're working through the rules with World Triathlon that we'll probably have more than 20 on the start line in Dubai for the men, for example, because 2 of the athletes, again, who I'm too tired to remember who they are, Yuri is one. And I think Yuri and Carl, in fact, they like the contract state the top 20 should be racing, but those
Right.
guys could potentially impact
the final.
right. And
Yeah.
so we have worked through with World Triathlon a criteria that they can be included, and I think that's a good example of recognizing the flexibility that we need to have. Right,
Yeah.
20 is the general number, but around around the edges.
Around,
exactly.
Yeah, depending on. I think another one of the interesting things that we had talked about was maybe partnering with World Triathlon or a short course race and having that kind of the same weekend and making it like a multi-sport festival type of thing. Without showing too many of your cards or releasing too much information, is that something that you could foresee in the future?
So I can say that we're definitely going to have at least one race that's going to have a short distance component next year, built into the T100, at least one. And for us, you used exactly the phrase that we want to be known as, which is multi-sport festivals. So we think it's really important, and it's something we've learned more about this year, that for us to grow the sport, we should be bringing in swimmers, cyclists, runners, right? Making it more of a festival weekend. We didn't do that here in Vegas, right? It was the only place when we haven't done it, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because it was just 100K, I think.
Yeah, just 100K. And so, and we were happy. I think we had 942 registered athletes. So yeah, our smallest event, but for a first time middle distance race in the US, I think that's okay as a starting point. Everywhere else, if we compare, I think in Dubai now, we're north of 12,000 across the different.
Cow.
Yeah, exactly. It's big. 12,000. That includes some
swimmer races, 5Ks.
Yeah, that's the whole mix. And look, and that's important because we want to have big events. We want to bring big atmosphere, amazing impact for everyone who's there. It just feels big, right? Like the London Marathon or the New York Marathon are so much more exciting than almost any other races in those respective countries because they're the mega events, and that's exactly what we want to be doing. Now, short distance racing can come into that in certain sections, and so we're going to test some stuff out and see where it lands. Yeah, sweet. Well, I think that this year has been wildly successful. Obviously, some growing pains that I'm sure you will go back and look through your 3 notepads and see what makes sense. And the data has been also really encouraging to see. So referencing my notepad, I remember some of the stats that I've got. We've had more engagement now. A couple of really interesting things. So we've had more engagement on the T100 than Ironman and Superdry combined. So yeah, there's me being nice and competitive, right? Nice rivalry and competition. Competition is a very healthy thing. So we're excited by that. But perhaps the more interesting statistic for people who listen is that we're starting to compare even against really big sports. So we had more engagement on Facebook than Live Golf, than Formula E, and SailGP combined. Wow. So 3 not massive sports, but all sports that are investing a lot. And then probably the most exciting one, which I reference all the time whenever I speak to any investor now, is we are still a fraction of the size of tennis and golf. We have 1/25 of the ATP social media audience, but year to date, we've had 1/3 of their social media engagement. So massively, massively higher. And look, and that's a really great reflection, not just of the work that we're doing. It's a reflection of triathlon and the fact that this is a hyper engaged sport with an incredible demographic of people. There just hasn't been that much content. Right. So now that we're creating great content, we've already got a passionate audience connected all together. And you can tell from the tone of my voice, hopefully, how exciting this will get. Yeah, that's awesome. So if I'm looking at 2025 and the races you guys have on the calendar, there's one region that's kind of missing. I'm sure you saw our social media posts about it. I may have done, but how many people engaged with it? Australia. Okay. I figured you might say Australia. Yeah. I mean, it's consistently the place which we get asked about. Yeah. It's got such a strong caliber of athletes. It's got some amazing races existing. Mm-hmm. We will be in Australia eventually. Yeah. Eventually. We're talking to 3 great locations in Australia right now, actually. So there's competitive tension already within it. Yeah. And I actually do believe quite strongly, actually, that the location which we're working on, I think will end up being the biggest of the T100s. Wow. I think it'll be the event that brings in the most, partly because the Australian fan base for sport is so strong, right? Especially when take swimming, cycling, running, and triathlon. That's a great way to build an incredible multi-sport festival in a location in Australia. Not going to say it out loud. Not going to say it. Will we see one in 2025? Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully. The challenge we have, to be very candid about it, is that from a seasonal perspective, we're running out of time. Right. So to launch an event for what would probably need to be in March or April, we're pretty late. Right. Yeah. So it may be a 26 versus a 25 for the Australians. Sorry to disappoint the Australians who listen in, but you can absolutely get my commitment that we'll be in Australia at some point. Yeah. It's a very, very important market for us to go to. That's fair. Cool. I
I think that's all that I had for you.
Okay.
I wanted to sit down and have a beer with you. I know that you've been going nonstop the last 2 days. So
it's been a pretty full-on few days, but it's been such a pleasure to be here. I think Vegas has shown it is a triathlon destination. I think you got down to the Strip yesterday.
Yeah, we went down the Strip, went to the Bellagio, gambled a little bit. So
Nice.
I tried to get you to come, but you had a lot of commitments. So
yeah, well, especially by that, my commitment at the time you were going to the casino was that I was going to bet. So I was tired by that point, but no, look, we're super excited to have hosted everyone here, and hope that we can host everyone back next year.
Yeah. Well, I've already submitted my early entry to
Awesome
interest as far as getting squared away for next year. So I'm super pumped. Thank you again for joining. Obviously, we have you on typically about once a year, maybe twice a year, and there's times that we feel like the questions are a little obviously dodged and stuff. But I think that whenever you sit down and have an interview with someone, it's a little bit different than
it's nice to be able to do in person,
yeah,
right? Especially you were here. And looking at, I know someone. What did Mark refer to me as dodgeball? I think he said at some point. And it's mainly because we want to share everything, but some of it just isn't ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was to say openly one of the locations where it isn't finished yet, I lose leverage with the location. Where
right, 100%.
It's fairly obvious.
Yeah, it does make sense.
We're not trying to do it to be obscure on purpose, but we love talking about it. I enjoy the podcast. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy your content you're creating in with this great setup that you guys on the video probably can't see.
We're trying.
There's a very professional setup here that's going to Kona, I guess.
Yep.
And I'm sure you'll be creating some great content over there. So
trying to.
Good luck.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tim. All right, Dylan. You're the face and the name that everyone knows about, from the fringe professional triathlon world that basically runs everything at the PTO, right?
I don't know if any of that's true. I think the athletes mainly know who I am, but I definitely don't run the PTO, that's for sure.
As far as on the back end, though, the professional athletes, you make sure that everyone is where they need to be, make sure everyone's hotels are squared away, make sure their bikes are squared away. What else?
I don't really know. Lots of people ask me, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I just run around and try and make sure that everyone's got what they need, that they know what they need to know, and that they just feel looked after and I guess valued. It wasn't like that wasn't the case when I was an athlete, but I always kind of thought it could be done differently and done better, and just try and professionalize it a little bit more.
So let's go back a little bit. So obviously you were an athlete first, ITU and long course.
Yep.
And so you went through the program of national governing bodies all the way to then kind of being on your own.
Yep. Yeah, I started pretty late. I was about 20, I think.
Yeah.
I was a swimmer before that, and actually just watched the 2004 Tour de France, and I was like, I can ride a bike. So started riding a bike, and then that kind of morphed into triathlon.
Yeah.
And then, did the ITU for about 5 years, 2006 to 2011. I wasn't very good, couldn't run fast enough. And then just, moved into the long distance, did a year of sort of half Ironman stuff, and then did my first full distance in 2013.
Wow.
At Challenge Wanaka, and then that kind of just kicked on my career for about another 7 or 8 years, and then retired just before COVID hit. So it was pretty good timing.
Yeah. And then when you were racing, what was the number one race for you? What was your favorite race you ever did?
Challenge Wanaka was kind of my race. It was my local race.
Yeah.
I was actually going to retire after my first. I was going to do one Challenge Wanaka and retire. I was like, I've got to do a full distance race, and I'll be, I would have ticked the box and be done.
Yeah.
It went better than I thought. So, and
so I kind of get to retire.
Yeah. I kind of enjoyed it. So, it kind of kicked on my career for, like I say, another 8 years. And Wanaka is awesome. It's such a beautiful place, and it's a tough course. It's just a cool race. But in terms of other races, Ironman Wales was
pretty dope.
Probably my favorite.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. The little town of Tenby and the whole area just comes out and supports it so well, and it's an epic course. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of Wanaka. So
nice. So after you retired, you then moved basically into PTO straight away.
Yep. So we'd kind of tried to start something. You probably know the story,
the PTU.
Yeah, as early as 2014 and Challenge Bahrain.
Yeah,
group of athletes got together. which eventually became the PTO, and then that kind of morphed into the PTO. So I'd kind of been involved that whole time.
Yeah.
And when Charles Adama came along, I was still there. So I was one of the executive board.
Right.
That he kind of spoke to about ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
And come 2020, when we got the investors on board, I was still there. I was about to retire. We kind of kicked off the PTO, and we're like, oh shit, we've got all these like emails coming in. Like, what are we doing? And I was like, well, I need a job. So
Yeah.
I was just right place, right time.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And here I am still
with the PTO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So as far as the PTO itself, obviously the transition from PTO T100, PTO still exists, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's still involved, still very much looks after professional athletes, not only the people that are on the circuit with the T100, but also the Ironman athletes or challenge athletes or basically any professional athlete that's in long course.
Yeah. It's still around. I guess the PTO owns T100.
Mm-hmm.
You know, T100 is the brand kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
PTO is the organization.
Yeah.
And yeah, like our goal is to look after all athletes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, we've gone through different iterations of how that looks.
Yeah.
And obviously the T100 is the latest version, and what we actually really believe that can make it so that we can look after like a lot of athletes. So I guess at the moment it's definitely weighted to the top, and I guess it always will be. But you know, if the T100 is successful, then the dream is that it trickles down and a lot more athletes can benefit. So yeah, but at the moment the goal is just trying to get to sustainability, really.
Yeah, that's fair. So you've seen a lot from over the last 5 years of being involved with both the PTU and then now the PTO and then with T100, all the above. So whenever you look back and see like the evolution, you see where you're at now is like the best case scenario, right? Like obviously there's still more to go, but where you're at right now, is it about what you expected or better than you expected?
You know, like to be honest, like in 2022, I didn't really know where we were going. Like we were trying the open kind of idea of having open, so 4 majors or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But didn't kind of really feel right.
Yeah.
So when the idea came up for the season-long narrative, it just like felt like it was what we needed.
Yeah.
And so where we are now is kind of the first year we've got to see how it works, and I think it looks good. I think the 8 events would have been great.
Yeah.
They had one more, but seven's not bad for a first year. And like the team have worked so hard to actually put this all in place. Like it's quite amazing what's happened in the space of probably 18 months or 12 months.
Yeah.
Next year the goal is more, as it's no secret.
Right.
So yeah, like I think it's in a good spot. To be honest, I just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You can always want more.
Yeah.
But it could also be a lot worse. So we just got to be happy with where we are and keep trying to make it better, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's chat a little bit about the race that happened yesterday. Obviously, this is an amazing venue. This resort is incredible. And kind of off in your own little like bubble. I talked to Sam about it before we recorded. But as far as venues itself that I've been to for the U.S. for you guys, I've obviously been to all 3 U.S. races. This one by far is the best in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great. Like I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't been here before. So, and of course, I've been to Vegas, so I was kind of thinking, just Vegas, which wasn't to me wasn't that inspiring. So to come out here and like driving down, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like it's cool. And then the feedback from the athletes in terms of venue is the same. Like it's amazing. The training's easy. Everything's here. Yeah. Super central. And the weather's kind of played ball a bit, hasn't been too hot. Right. So, I mean, I think we'll definitely be back and we can, make it even better, I think. But in terms of ease, this is the place.
This is easy. Yeah. Easy for you guys. Cool. Well, race happened. Obviously, there was 5-6 athletes for the women's side that came out of the water. Taylor Knibb, one of them, obviously, and then kind of just accelerated and won the race. Yeah. It's hard for me because I love Taylor and I've watched her race a long time, but it's also you're getting to the point where you're like, crap, is this getting like kind of boring? Just like watching her race all this? Like the only way that I could like pinpoint it down to would be like watching Daniela during her streak of like, what was that 2017 to 2019 when she just won like 22 races in a row or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah. I guess it is kind of boring, but you're kind of just watching a super impressive athlete just do her thing. And the funny thing about Taylor is she's like, I know, but I was so scared of Julie catching me or this or that, you know, like she's kind of so humble like that. I don't know. I think it's also exciting because when someone gets to that level, then genuinely others follow, you know, like other people sort of see that it's possible. And so it will lift the whole sport. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before she kind of gets, I guess, caught up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, next year we'll see like closer racing again. Even in Dubai, like different conditions, different kind of course, you know, like it's going to suit someone like Ash or Julie, or even Flora was saying that, you know, she likes the heat. So it's
anyone's game going into the
Dubai's going to be fun. Going to be fun.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because it's almost like, so Chrissy Wellington did it first, right? So probably even before that, you could go back to Paula Newby-Fraser or some of the other triathlon greats. But Chrissy Wellington really elevated the women's sport a lot. And then next was Daniela, and could be seeing Taylor Nib that will then elevate the women's sport even more. So hoping that we get more exciting of that. Obviously, she put down the fastest bike split of the day, and then Julie had the fastest run split of the day. So we could be in for a showdown in Dubai, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess Julie hasn't been on well, Taylor's had the TT to train for, right?
Right.
So she has been on that bike probably quite a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Julie hasn't. Flora definitely hasn't.
Yeah.
Even Taylor Spivey, you know, she pretty good solid race. So a bit more time on the bike for her too, even though I don't know if she'll get the chance with Super League and everything else. But Super Try. But I think it's heading in the right direction. Like the women's racing is going to get more and more exciting. So that's cool.
Yeah. And then the course itself, I think, sort of remind me, Dubai, how many loops is it? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I don't, but it looks quite a bit more technical. I've seen like a rough first map of the bike course at least.
But technical definitely doesn't suit Taylor Nib. So that could open up the race quite a bit. Yep,
for sure. So it looks kind of twisty and turny, like motorways and on ramps and off ramps and stuff like that. So it'll be an interesting race.
Yeah. Moving on to the men's race. Obviously there was a very large group on the swim, pretty large bike group that kind of split up, fractured a little bit. Penalties, that's a big thing that obviously we should be talking about.
Yep.
What are your thoughts as far as penalties go, and how you guys have kind of navigated, obviously, the rule change to go down to 1 minute penalty, and then we're 2 for 2 now for giving penalties out.
Yeah. I think it's funny. Like I think we discussed penalty time probably at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And we did discuss 1 minute, but we were kind of like, I know it would have been when we first, I think the PTO has always had a 3 minute drafting penalty.
Right.
Just because
that's what's always existed.
Well, 5 minutes
is not.
5 minutes just doesn't make sense for a professional race over the middle distance. So I think we discussed like 1 minute years ago, but it's 3 minutes. But I feel like 1 minute just kind of feels right now.
Yeah.
And it's not that we think the referees weren't doing their job. We just don't want them to we want
them to feel more empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, they want to, if they see drafting, I don't want them to be like, kind of second guessing.
Yeah.
And then they wait a bit and they watch more, and then they lose that impetus. It's like, if they see drafting, they should be empowered to kind of act on that.
Yeah.
Again, whether they make the right calls all the time, don't know. But
it's almost like any football match you watch, right? So you don't want the penalty, you don't want the game to be decided on a penalty, but at the same time, whenever you have a 5 minute or even a 3 minute drafting penalty, you're ultimately deciding the match before the race is even over.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't think that's kind of fair. I don't believe many athletes really intend to fully, milk it.
Yeah.
They just, athletes are athletes, they're competitive, they'll push the limits.
Yep.
But I think we saw in the men's race, after the women got handed out 3 penalties,
Mm-hmm.
the men's race was like probably the fairest race I've seen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
They saw it. They saw that the referees are acting.
Yep.
And they're like, oh wow, like, so they all kind of sat back a bit.
Yep.
Which is good. Like, that's kind of where you want them.
Yeah, and that's instrumental of obviously Race Ranger. You've been a part of the inception of that for many years, I'm sure, with James. So
yep,
kind of seeing the fruits of your labor a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, it's amazing how much work goes into these things. Like, it's still not perfect, you know, but it's really getting better. And I think yesterday was a good sign, and like Nice as well in Ibiza, that it's starting to do what it was always intended to do, which is, you know, like actually create fair racing, but also reliably, you know, like,
yeah.
Even though we had a couple of hiccups this year with London and San Fran and stuff, when it is at the events, it seems to be having a big impact. And I'd even say, and I can't speak for Ironman, but I feel like the narrative around drafting an Ironman's completely changed. There's not so much criticism now.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of died down a lot.
Yeah.
And the way they're implementing it has been like great. You know, they're quite strict on it.
Yep.
And I guess we're seeing like some good fair racing out there.
Yeah. And that was fun to watch on the men's side, obviously. Fastest swim. I don't remember who had the fastest swim off the top of my head. It was Martin.
Yep.
Yeah. And then fastest bike split was probably Martin as well.
Sam. Sam. Yep.
Oh, okay. And then fastest run was
Yellow.
And then he ended up coming away with a victory.
Yep.
So is it encouraging to you whenever you have a first time winner or first time event?
Yep. I think
then
so.
It makes it worth it, right? For wild cards and things like that.
Yeah, and like this year has also been about like finding those athletes in a way.
Yeah.
We've given out quite a lot of wild cards, and we've found, like, in the men's side, we've found 3.
Yeah.
Who can be super competitive.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what we need, is like the most competitive racing.
Right.
So
100%.
for Yellow to come out like that and win was super impressive. Like, I was watching him on the bike and he was kind of just hanging on there.
Yeah.
But then when he got onto a run, he just looked like too good.
Yeah, he's
like,
insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, he said this is his course.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's like Lionel Sanders. He was watching the race yesterday. They uploaded on their YouTube channel of like, Lionel's like, I've raced Yellow on a golf course, and it's not fun. So
yeah.
He knew that going into the race, I'm sure that Yellow was like, this is what I was made for, essentially. So.
Yeah. So that was impressive. And Martin's he's impressive, isn't he? And even Eustace, like, we've tried to get him along to quite a few PTO events in the past, and even maybe not this year because he's been injured.
Yeah,
but he's kind of always won races.
Yeah.
Put his hand up.
Yep.
And then he's got injured, so he's never made it. But I think he showed how sort of good he can be too. And then like Peter and even Jason. You know, Jason's
had a tough. Yeah, he's had a tough season. So to be able to come away top 5 is massive for him.
And I guess we should shout out to Peter that he's the only one here
that's doing Kona. Yeah,
Kona too. So that'll be interesting.
That'll be interesting to see how he bounces back from racing this weekend and then racing in Kona in basically 6 days time now. So it could work. You know, like the biggest mistake most people do with Kona is like overdo it, right? So, yeah. They go to the island 2 weeks early or even a month early, and then they just cook themselves for
exactly. So
through 2 blocks basically. So
it was great to see Jason have a good one because he stopped right in front of me and did his up dog.
Yeah.
I gave him some water. I'm like, he's probably out.
Yeah.
But to see him just charge on and get 5th was super impressive.
It was massive.
Yeah.
What do you think of his new bike? Obviously he's been in it now for 2 races, but
it's obviously working.
Yeah.
Or he's just the extra bike training because of the run injuries has worked.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be a learning for him, you know, like, does he really need to run heaps? He could do more on the bike.
Turn it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Train a little bit on other things. And then rounding out the podium yesterday, it was Jelle, Martin Van Riel, and then Justus Nieschlag, who's also another wild card.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
super impressive from him.
He's raced well at the middle distance.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So like
just a matter of time before he was.
Exactly. We've tried to get him before he's been injured. So, and I think he was 50-50 on this even. So, I guess he just took the opportunity and
Yeah.
he's
That's
put us,
huge.
like basically he can't get a spot in Dubai,
Yeah.
but that podium here has put his hand
Yeah.
up for next year.
What about Yella? Yella won't get a start in Dubai then either, huh? Or
no,
maybe.
no,
Nah?
no.
And
Just,
then Julie getting second here, and obviously second in Ibiza. She'll be starting in Dubai.
she gets to start to
Yeah.
Dubai. Yeah.
Yeah. But then as far as the series itself for her, it's not
She doesn't get the Olympic clause, which is
the third clause.
Yeah.
The third race.
because that it's just not the same. Like
Yeah.
the contracted athletes had a kind of a guarantee of what they're
Right.
signing up to, and we pulled that from them.
Yeah.
So we had to provide a solution. But for the wild cards, there's no guarantees for them. But
Yeah.
in terms of Julie, like she's obviously pretty safe for next year.
For
I'd
next
say.
year. Yeah, for sure. And so as far as next year, if you're looking forward, obviously you have much more of a gauge on the athletes and recommendations of who you can make for not only getting the hot shot contracts, but obviously the wild cards before it leads into the waiting list. So can you talk us through like the whole process? Cause I don't know if a lot of people still kind of know like what all goes into of like, you guys still get to decide up until 30 days out, right? And
Yep.
then after 30 days out, the start list is set. And then anyone that pulls off, it goes to the waiting list.
Yep, exactly. So the athletes have to enter via the National Federation so they do that on the World Triathlon system. We get sent that wait list.
Yep.
And then even the contracted athletes are on there.
Oh, okay.
So like, I think it's like 35 days out, the contracted athletes get moved to the start list.
Yep.
And then 30 days out, we can choose however many spots we have left over of the 20.
Yep.
We can choose to replace them with the wildcards.
Yep.
And then anything after that is based on the wait list. So
Yeah.
even if the number one ranked athlete wasn't like entered, for example, and they decided to enter the wait list late,
Yeah.
they would go on at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. A contracted athlete would go on at the top, but
Yeah.
any other athlete would go on at the bottom.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah, that one's been a big learning this year
Yeah.
because we haven't really been used to it.
Yeah.
Our wildcard system was
Yeah. You guys have just been like, who's hot, who's been
Yeah.
racing well.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
we'll give them a slot, or who's been injured that we know can race well.
Yeah.
We'll just give them a slot.
exactly, and for us that's the definition of wildcards. But with World Triathlon, we kind of inherited this system, so we've had to learn how to make that work properly. And
Yeah.
I think it's worked out, mostly fine. Like we've pretty much got the athletes we wanted, kind of just through them kind of performing well, so they kind of move up the rankings anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. There's always things we can improve.
Yeah. So for next year, who are you eyeing? Who's like a couple of people that you're like, oh, I'm excited for them if they want to move from short course to long course, or who did you not get this year that's been racing well at 70.3 or Ironman that you're like, I would love to see them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some easy ones like Hayden.
Yeah.
And I think he's made no secret that he kind of wants to do that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It'd be awesome to have him there. Like Leo.
Yeah.
Obviously, whenever he's raced, he's been amazing.
Phenomenal.
So if he's keen, there's quite a lot. Like the young Greek kid.
Yeah. Patagonis.
Yeah.
Batatos.
Yeah. He's been racing like phenomenally well. We asked him about racing here, but he was in Spain.
He got second at U23 World Championships.
Yeah.
So
We asked him about Ibiza too, but he'd already committed to a challenge race, I think. And like when you're a young up and comer, you don't have the money just to
no, you can't just
cancel and whatever else.
No.
So and I think he's got pins coming out of his shoulder, so he's got a lot on the end of this year. But he's been just tearing the house down, really.
Yeah.
Vince.
Yeah.
The men is probably going to be pretty tough. You've got guys like even Yellow, like he might not make. I don't know if he'll get his three.
Depending on where his three results land him. So
yeah,
he would need to do pretty well at 70.3 Worlds because he went like this is a fourth place at Oceanside, third place at 70.3 Talon, and then 70.3
Salem Z.
He was second, and then now first here. So fourth, second, third.
He might be better.
He'll be close. He'll be close.
Yeah. I think he will be better than he thinks, and if he has a good one, and Taupo especially, even like Eustace being injury prone, so that's a pretty good result.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty, and then on the women's side, we're not too sure as much because the World Triathlon ladies are all kind of like they probably might kick on in World Triathlon scene. So
yeah,
it's a bit more of an open book, and
yeah.
would
Cassandra,
take recommendations.
obviously.
Yeah, I
She's
mean, there's
world
the
champ-
obvious
she's-
ones.
She's Olympic champion.
Yep.
So,
but I don't know if I haven't, can't gauge your interest. I don't know if there is any at the moment.
Yeah.
And then even on the guys' side, back to Gustav, Christian, Lionel. We don't know if they're gonna what their plans are.
Plan to do
year.
if they want to circle Nice on the calendar or whatever.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
awesome. If you move forward now to locations for next year, obviously we talked to Sam about quite a bit of stuff, and he told us a little bit. But as far as the 7 that you guys have announced, which one are you most excited about?
Well, you were asking me before, like I might ask you what your favorite location is. It's so hard. Like, San Fran, maybe just because of the men's race and because Kyle's a Kiwi and I'm definitely patriotic. Can't kind of hide that.
Yeah. You want him to get a little redemption from last year.
Yeah, that kind of that race this year kind of resonates with me a bit, and it's also kind of easy travel for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's probably the easiest travel for you that you'll do the whole year.
Because Singapore's a slightly shorter but similar kind of trip.
Yeah.
And Singapore's hot, so kind of battle around.
Yeah, you'd like to wear a little bit. You'd like to wear shorts in San Francisco. That's fine.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But next year, the new French one will be cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think we've announced the location yet, so I won't say anything.
No.
But it'll be cool. They're actually all kind of unique. So,
yeah.
I'm just excited for hopefully us making improvements to how things work.
Yeah.
And just having another exciting series, really.
Yeah. It's been fun to watch, just like the growth that you guys have gone through, even this year. Obviously, there was a massive list of things to look at from Miami. A lot of those were kind of intangibles outside of your guys' control, but then that list kind of got shorter, like as the season went on, right? So obviously, from my perspective, going from Miami to this is like a completely different race. Like it's a completely different race series, completely different organization. So I do want to give you guys praise for that because it was next level coming here versus being in Miami.
Yeah, cool. That's good to hear because like when you're in it, right, you don't always see that stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of just see the next problem to fix. So in our minds, there's always things to fix.
Yeah.
So we don't really see maybe we don't see the improvements so much. So hopefully we are making improvements. The broadcast still needs work, and that's hopefully getting better every race.
Yep.
The content has kind of adapted. Like I never really used to be a content guy.
But now you love it.
Now I just kind of watch it. It'll get me on like the trainer or something to watch it. So and it's cool because you kind of get to see the athletes how you maybe didn't get to see them as much in the past. So still plenty to work on, and even like the way the series works and stuff. Like we could not foresee everything. Yeah, because we it kind of came together in like 3 months. So
it was quick.
Yeah.
You guys had to it was almost like drinking from the fire hose, right? In a sense.
Yeah. So we've had to make how the wild cards qualify for the final, and quite a few little changes through the times, and hopefully they've just been hopefully they're seen as fair, and
so there'll be more. I mean, Sam basically said that you guys are working through it right now, but trying to make sure that you can get obviously more than 20 athletes for the grand final, and that's kind of to be expected. And that was the goal ultimately from the beginning, I think.
Yeah. It was, but again, and this is fair enough. We have rules.
Yeah.
And rules need to be stuck to, right? And you can't just chop and change rules every 5 seconds. So that wasn't a rule.
Yeah.
So we had to request rule changes and stuff. So now we've got that through. But there still needs to be kind of qualification criteria. So,
sure.
On the men's side, it's top 10 in the series.
Okay.
And have raced 3 races.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, Mika, Yuri are automatic qualifiers essentially.
Yep.
Without Harvey, that makes it 22.
Yep.
So that would be 22 men. And then on the women's side, no one actually reaches has reached that level.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more like discretionary.
Yeah. But you guys are
but-
going to have 22 and 22, you think?
It doesn't have to be the same.
Yeah.
Like if we'll try and keep it like level. So if all the same women, if not all the same women, but if 5 women meet the same kind of criteria,
Yeah.
we're not going to be like, oh, you're cut and you're in. It'll be
Yeah.
like kind of, you've all kind of reached the
You've
same
all
level.
done 3 races.
Yep. You can
Yeah.
you can come to the final.
Yeah.
And they've been part of the series, and that's important to the
Yeah.
series itself, is to have the same athletes there and stuff like that. So.
And the way the points shake out for the grand final for the series, obviously with, I think it's 55 points for the win in Dubai. So it's kind of all to play for, right? Like it's not just Taylor Knibb can't just walk up and just race. Like she has to do pretty well and kind of take it to Ash to be able to come away with the dub.
Yeah, I think we worked this out in Ibiza, and Ash was on the fence whether she came here to try and beat her worst performances,
which
maybe.
is San
Not
Fran.
Worst, but her.
Yeah.
No, I think
Was it San Fran that was the
Ibiza
least
counts as,
okay.
as 4th.
Yeah.
It was 4th there, right?
Yeah.
And we worked out if she got 3rd here, then if she won the final, she would win the series over Taylor.
Okay.
Even if Taylor got 2nd.
Yeah.
But I think now if Ash has to win and Taylor has to be like 3rd or 4th,
Yeah.
Ash to win.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know.
It could happen.
Yeah,
like
it
it's a
happen.
sport. Like
Yeah.
you never know who's going to win or not win races. Like obviously
yeah.
we've seen that this year. We've had, I think on the men's side, we've had a different champion at every event.
Other than Martin, yeah.
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 Martin's the only one that's won 2 events.
Yeah.
And then on the women's side, it's been Ash and Taylor duking it out the whole season. So
yeah, it's cool. It's I'm glad it's not all sewn up kind of already.
Yeah.
So
yes. And then obviously wild card with Indy Lee winning at Miami.
Sorry,
and then,
shouldn't forget Indy.
And then podium at Ibiza.
Yep.
So lots to play for. You got any hot takes? What do you want to talk about, Dylan?
I don't know. No, not really. You know me, I don't really have hot takes.
Yeah.
Just yeah. No, I'm just I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm gutted we don't have the 8, but I think it's actually a good ending in Dubai. And, the race director there is a Kiwi, so I've been talking to him a bit, and he's
there you go.
and he's trying to do everything to make it like a really great event. So,
Sam said something crazy. You guys have like, was it 20,000 people racing something?
Yeah, across all events,
all those events.
like the running and the swimming and stuff as well. So that's it's 3,000. 3,000 of the triathlons. Yeah, which is I think the limit.
Wow.
Based on like the water stuff, but have a big music run and whatever else, and that's kind of part of the T100's plan is to have. You can only have so many triathletes in races. Yeah. So how do you grow events and just like have other cool, fun stuff? Yeah. Yep.
That's fair. Cool. Well, I'm pumped up for watching Dubai. I'm not gonna be able to make it, but Mark's gonna hold down the fort for us as far as the Pro Shine News squad to be in Dubai.
Hold down the bar.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I'm super pumped for 2025. Obviously, this race is going to be circled on my calendar just because from a standpoint of coming to Vegas is always fun, but kind of being in Vegas in like a secluded area with a bunch of triathletes, like it's almost like a little mini Kona in a sense. So
yeah, it's honestly a great spot. Like, you're not actually that far from Vegas.
No, it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then you're out and you see Vegas. Like you get the best of both worlds almost. Yeah. Unless you really are a Vegas fan. Yeah. But for me, it's kind of cool, and the scenery around here is just awesome. So it's a good spot.
You ready to go do some gambling tonight? You gonna play blackjack? What are we gonna do, Dylan?
I think I'm gonna stay here, but I have been to Vegas before a couple of times. So I've lost enough money.
What's your favorite game to play in Vegas?
Blackjack.
Blackjack?
Yeah. Well, blackjack in general. Just blackjack.
Yeah.
I feel like you have more chance,
Yeah. Best odds in the casino. That's what they say.
Exactly. So. Unless you're in a Vegas casino where they always have those different funny
I won
rolls.
$300 last night playing blackjack at Bellagio. Started with 200 and one.
Don't go back. They'll take.
No, I'm not going back. I don't need